This flight was completely normal, until 20 minutes before disaster. Air France Flight 447 departed Rio de Janeiro, bound for Paris. The aircraft was an Airbus A330, a trusted long-haul airliner. 228 passengers and crew were on board that night.
The flight crew was experienced and trained for transatlantic operations.
For most of the journey, the flight progressed without any issues. As the plane crossed the equatorial Atlantic, weather conditions began to shift.
Thunderstorms ahead contained turbulence, heavy rain, and ice crystals.
The pilots made a small course adjustment to avoid the worst weather.
This routine decision placed the aircraft into a critical environment.
At cruising altitude, the aircraft encountered high concentrations of ice crystals.
These ice crystals began blocking the plane's pitot tubes, which measure airspeed.
As airspeed data became unreliable, the aircraft's computers detected conflicting information. Moments later, the autopilot disconnected automatically. The aircraft was now being flown manually, in darkness and heavy turbulence.
Multiple warning alarms sounded, adding confusion inside the cockpit.
At this time, the captain was resting outside the cockpit.
Two co-pilots were left to manage the situation under intense pressure.
One pilot reacted by pulling back on the control stick, causing the aircraft to climb.
At high altitude, this action caused the aircraft's speed to drop rapidly.
As the aircraft climbed, the aerodynamic stall warning suddenly activated.
A stall means the wings are no longer producing enough lift to stay airborne. The correct response would have been to push the nose down.
Instead, the pilot continued pulling back on the control stick.
This action kept the aircraft deep inside a stalled state.
Confusingly, the stall warning stopped sounding during parts of the descent.
This silence reinforced the pilot's misunderstanding of what was happening.
Meanwhile, the aircraft was falling at a high vertical speed.
The nose remained pointed upward as the plane descended toward the ocean.
For over 3 minutes, the aircraft remained in this uncontrolled stall.
The captain was urgently called back into the cockpit. He entered a cockpit filled with alarms and confusion.
Critical information was not clearly communicated between the crew members.
No one explicitly stated that the aircraft was stalled.
The captain tried to understand the aircraft's condition in seconds.
The pilots focused on airspeed warnings rather than the aircraft's attitude.
The aircraft continued descending at an extreme vertical rate.
Despite working engines, the plane was no longer under control.
No emergency call was transmitted to air traffic control.
The final moments passed without the crew realizing the true problem.
the aircraft descended rapidly toward the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. At high speed, the plane struck the water almost level, but uncontrollable.
The impact destroyed the aircraft instantly.
All 228 people on board were lost.
Air France Flight 447 had disappeared without a distress call.
Search and rescue operations began almost immediately.
Floating debris was discovered days later, confirming the crash.
The main wreckage, however, remained missing for nearly 2 years.
The black boxes were finally recovered from the ocean floor.
Only then could investigators reconstruct the final 20 minutes.
Investigators analyzed data from the flight and cockpit recorders.
The black box revealed unreliable airspeed data during the storm.
Ice crystals had blocked all 3 pitot tubes simultaneously. This caused the autopilot to disconnect as designed.
The aircraft itself remained mechanically flyable.
However, incorrect control inputs kept the plane in a stall.
The pilots never fully recognized the stalled condition.
Communication breakdown worsened the situation.
Pull the lever now!
I am! It's stuck! We're losing altitude!
The investigation identified both technical and human factors.
Neither factor alone would have caused the crash.
The official report confirmed the aircraft stalled from high altitude to impact.
The engines were producing power until the moment of impact.
There was no structural failure before the crash. The tragedy exposed weaknesses in pilot training for rare situations.
High-altitude stall recognition was not sufficiently emphasized at the time.
Automation had reduced pilots' manual flying experience.
In critical moments, manual skills became essential. Aviation authorities issued safety recommendations worldwide. Airlines updated procedures and improved training programs.
New standards were introduced to prevent similar accidents.
After the crash, airlines replaced pitot tubes with improved designs.
Pilot training began focusing more on manual flight skills.
Crews were trained to recognize and recover from high-altitude stalls.
Yet the loss of 228 lives remains permanent. Each accident leaves lessons written in data and memory.
Aviation safety advances through understanding, not fear.
Today's systems reflect the lessons learned from Flight 447.
Every safe flight carries those lessons forward.
Air France Flight 447 did not fail because of one single error.
It failed because multiple small problems aligned at the same moment.
Technology alone could not prevent human confusion under pressure.
And experience alone could not overcome misleading information.
In aviation, understanding the situation is everything.
When that understanding is lost, even modern aircraft become vulnerable. This tragedy reshaped how pilots are trained worldwide. Its lessons continue to protect millions of passengers every day.
The final 20 minutes told a story hidden until the black box spoke. This was the story before the black box.